Hi, Amy.
Abby.
Last night we watched 90 Day Fiancé Season 11, Episode 16, which means we are quickly approaching the end of this journey together.
Yeah.
I think there are 2 more episodes left, and then we shall see how many episodes they decide to put us through for the dreaded tell-all.
Oh my God. Prediction?
4. You?
3.
3. 3 would be more than sufficient, but I feel like they're gonna just push it.
And how many unwanted guests do you think we're going to have?
There's no telling. The sky's the limit. It's
The way I heard it
disappointing.
was, this guy's the limit. I'm like,
Which guy? Yes.
fair.
All of them.
All of them.
All of them. All right, let's talk about happier things. 1 and 2, rate, review, follow us wherever you listen to the podcast, and to watch our podcast on YouTube at 90 Day Fiancé. Honestly, shall we begin?
Yes. Say that with reluctance because of where we're beginning.
All right, let's go. Matt. Oh, fuck. Sorry. Matt, Amani, and Ani. Why?
Yeah.
Okay, at least they're winding down. They're meeting her family at long last in Guadalajara. But Ani hasn't thought through any of this. She doesn't know what she's going to say, how she's going to position herself. She just knows that in speaking to her incredibly religious Catholic family about the situation that she finds herself in, that if her aunt does not approve of being in a throuple, that Ani will likely have to leave the relationship. That's how serious. Yes, it's so serious.
And she also said that, she's never introduced anyone to her family before.
Yeah,
Yet,
right.
She's been married and she was dating Roy, right?
Ray.
And he met the family, but yet she's never introduced anyone to said family. Oh, so much for No More Lies.
We're doing so well, aren't we, Ani? Yeah, that's right. Ray said he'd met her whole family.
Including the children.
But she did say that Ray told a lot of the liars. So perhaps it was a liar that he told when he said he'd met her entire family, including her children. And one would assume her aunt and her brother, sister-in-law. Anyway, let's continue. This meeting is very, very awkward, to say the least.
Yeah.
I love the part when Amani started having a coughing fit as she was drinking her whatever it was, because this encapsulated for me the fact that none of them were able to or willing to swallow this horrific news that Ani is in a throuple relationship. Sorry, Brenda. They refer to her as Brenda. That Brenda's in this relationship with these 2 crazy people.
My favorite part about all of this was the reactions of her brother and sister-in-law. Her brother at first was like his head went back. He's like, what? And then he just smelled the worst fart ever. Ooh, it was bad. And then the sister-in-law was just like, what? This is stupid. I love that part.
Their reactions were priceless.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then the aunt's face, just total disgust at first. Angry, disgusted, stone face. She looked very harsh. But somehow, we don't know what magic was cast during this meeting, but something happened, because the brother immediately says, it's fine. No problems. If that's what you want, I accept it.
I think that was a production plant, because they're all like, none of this is real. And they're like, oh, okay, we can accept it now. But when Ani was talking and when Amani was feeding her the words, she was like, she is divorcing to give me a better life. She. And none of it was about Matt. And then Amani was like, to give you a better life and your kids. And then when she relayed it back to her family, she said, for me and her daughter.
Yes.
Not for the other 2.
Well, the other ones, the one son is an adult. He's 20 or 21, right? So it wouldn't really matter to him. And the other child, I believe, lives with the father full time. Isn't that what we found out somewhere along the line?
I think so. I just thought it was fun that she was like, me and my daughter and not my children.
She did change the wording quite a bit when she was translating what Amani was saying to her and then conveying it to her aunt. Now, the aunt, wow, this was quite the display, getting down on her knees in front of Bonnie/Brenda and saying that she accepted it, this strange relationship, because she could see how happy her niece is.
Yeah. And, it's always been Brenda against the world, and now they're there to support her.
Yeah, what was that shit?
As if she hasn't survived to this ripe age of, 30-something?
37.
37 without their assistance.
I know. That I found very condescending of Amani to say. I'm sure she could do just fine without you. You're not her savior. You're not going to lead her to a promised land full of wealth and riches. That assumption I found offensive.
Yes.
And what else? They all hug at the end. Joyous, happy day. Such redemption, such truth and healing and real and true love. Everything is going to work out.
True love.
My God, Princess Bride. I love that scene. It's absolutely going to work out. Everybody's going to be so very happy forever.
Hey.
The end. That's all I have to say.
My last comment on this is, my good Lord, this is so awful.
Excellent comment.
Yes.
Let's read on.
Please.
Shawn and Alliya. It is their wedding day.
Huzzah.
Hurrah, hooray. Alliya signs the prenup.
What
is going on today? Everything is giggling. Giggling? Everything is giggly. Okay. Alliya signs the prenup. The wedding is on.
The morning of. I'm pretty sure I called that last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think you did. Yep.
Go me.
So Shawn's got his conditions fulfilled. We are proceeding. Everything is a go. Green light. Alliya, just before she leaves Shawn to go get ready, promises she will not be late.
And Shawn called that she was going to be late. If you don't leave now, you're going to be late.
Yeah. So the wedding is at 5 p.m.
Foreshadowing. Coming from this man.
Yeah, okay. We get it. She is going to be late. This is going to take her a long time to get ready. She has this intricate routine. She leaves for her getaway, getting ready thing at 1:30 in the afternoon. So she has, if I'm not mistaken, 3.5 hours to get ready. Yes, she has 3.5. At 2:30, everything is timed in their segment. At 2:30, Shawn's mom, unfortunately, has a fall. She endures. Why does that sound like I'm saying endures?
Injures?
She hurts her leg. She hurts her ankle. And Shawn, his stress level goes through the roof, which is not what you want to have on your wedding day. I felt really badly for him because of this. Just this was enough to put anybody over the edge of anxiety and, cortisol streaming through your body, taking over, adrenaline, all that crap. Not good. But fortunately, Mom's injury isn't so bad that she can't later on attend the wedding. She just has to keep her foot elevated and iced. Okay, nice. Good.
I wonder if they had, if production had some sort of first aid or something and they were able to check her out to assess whether or not she needed to go to the hospital ASAP because, she is 86. So I would hope that someone would check her out and they wouldn't just take her word for it.
This isn't Survivor. I don't think there's a medic standing by in the bushes just waiting to leap out at a moment's notice.
I'm just hoping that someone had assessed her.
I hope so as well, because God knows Mom is very, very precious.
Yes, we love her.
Continuing on with this chronological love fest, at 3 p.m., Alliya starts to get ready. What the hell is going on? And I can't remember the girlfriend's name who took her to this other place to get ready. But what was her problem? Why didn't she push Alliya, start getting ready now? Well before 3 p.m. You've been there for an hour and a half. What if she's been doing for so long? So this is an incredibly hectic pace that's happening during their segment. between Shawn's mom needing medical attention and a wheelchair and him having to, at the last minute, get somebody else to bring her to the wedding because he can't do it. And then he seems to be looking after every single last minute detail, including getting Maxwell into his costume because he's the ring bearer dog. Super cute.
Love that.
Love that.
I also love the fact that he was able to call his friend Stacy, and not only could she pick his mom up, but bring a wheelchair. Like,
Yes.
how incredibly resourceful of whoever did it to be able to find a wheelchair on such short notice. I thought that was fantastic.
Yes. However, with all of these things going wrong, there's no happiness here. Like, I can't feel any good emotions coming from particularly Shawn, but also to a certain extent from Alliya. I don't feel that, oh, it's the wedding, excitement, anticipation. It's more like, what else is going to go wrong now?
Well, I felt that more from Shawn's side. I felt from Aliyah's side, it was like more like she was getting ready for prom.
Yeah.
More relaxed. And, she didn't seem to start to get stressed out until she found out about Shawn's mom, Jean. And going back to what you had said about the friend, like at one point, Alliya was like, how much time do I have left? Because I need another like 2.5 hours. And she's like, you only have an hour and a half. Why don't you set a timer? Like, you have this much time left, this much time left, this much time left. Almost like the moderator of a talk show or something. This much time left. You have to keep her in line. And at what point do you just say, well, she's not listening to me. Screw it. None of what I say matters.
Exactly. Isn't this her role as, I guess, the de facto maid of honor or matron of honor? We don't know if she's married. To remind the bride, okay, it's 1:30. Now you got 3.5 hours. Okay, now it's 2:30. You've got 2.5 hours. She didn't seem to be taking any of that as her role. And so Alliya just keeps getting further and further behind in being ready on time, to the point where 5 o'clock comes and goes, 5:30 comes and goes, then it's 6 o'clock, and finally 6:30, an hour and a half, and they were supposed to have been eating their meal already by 6 o'clock. Some of the guests have other things to do or to go to later on, so they have like a hard deadline that they have to meet, and they have to leave at a certain point. Now they're not even going to be able to attend the dinner. Like, it's so inconsiderate that Alliya is taking all this time.
Extremely inconsiderate. And also think about the food. Is it a buffet? Is it a sit down? Because I've been to a wedding that ran, I think we were late. I was part of the bridal party. Well, we were late for some reason, and during photos is when they started serving all the appetizers and whatever, and then they started the buffet. By the time we got there, it was all dried out and cold.
Mm-hmm.
That's not fantastic. I mean, that's one of the worst things that you could do to a guest.
And to do that to your caterers as well, if it's a sit-down meal where they're going to be bringing you plates of food, then those plates are sitting around somewhere waiting to go as well. It's just a disaster.
Yeah.
And you can really feel it from Shawn, who has started drinking at this point. And I was glad that he had, because all of his guests were also just sitting outside waiting and waiting and waiting. It's incredibly hot. They're all melting.
They're dogs are panting.
The dog who's wearing a shirt over
there
all
were
of his
two
fur.
Dogs.
Yes, there was another little dog underneath somebody's chair, but Maxwell was wearing a shirt for his outfit for the wedding. Just all of them are all suffering because Alliya is taking so goddamn long to do her fucking hair and makeup. I'm sorry.
Can't be.
I'm sorry.
And this is after Shawn drops off like a fully done up wig, and all she had to do was brush it out.
Yeah, that was the backup wig. And I don't understand why he brought a backup wig to the wedding itself when he knew that she was in another location. Well, I guess it was fairly close because he walked there at the end, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
But she was getting ready in that house, and yet he's got this wig as a stand. Like, it doesn't take her 5 seconds to put the wig on. So how is he expecting that? Anyway, that problem aside, this is just a disaster.
Yeah.
Shawn gets very, very irritable. So he, at 6:30, when he's been waiting for an hour and a half, as have all the guests,
I think that was a very generous amount of time for him to wait.
he walks off with some decisiveness. He storms off to go to see Alliya, and like he's fed up. The heat is unbearable, the waiting is unbearable. He's so pissed. So he goes to see her to talk to her, or maybe to tell her forget about it, the wedding's off. I'm not sure. We'll probably have to wait till next week to see what the nature of that conversation really is. But I felt horrible for Shawn. And this is probably the first time that I felt horrible for him in the entirety of knowing him through the 90 Day Fiancé franchise.
I agree. I think it was so rude of her. And for that many people to be sitting around and sorry, I'm clicking random stuff. And for people to have other things to do and to not get to eat dinner. And there were a couple elderly people in as guests. What if they have health issues and they need to eat at a specific time? Are you feeding them hors d'oeuvres while they're waiting for you? Like, that's a long time to wait, especially at 5 p.m. Like, that's dinner time ish. And they're just supposed to starve.
Yeah.
Like, at what point do you just join the cocktail hour and the hors d'oeuvres before dinner during the procession?
I know. I
It's
don't
such a
know.
waste.
If it was me, I would have been livid, because exactly for that reason, it's so inconsiderate to your guests. And how do you then manage with all of the timing of everything else, the food, the drinks, etc., to put it all together so that people are comfortable and yet you're not ruining the entire event? It's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
What else is horrible for me, and I'm sad to say this, was Aliyah's dress.
Oh, God.
Oh dear. I do not know what to say, except that the naked look, not a fan. Not a fan. Nope.
I found it to be very tacky, like especially with being able to see her little undies. It would be one thing if it was like a completely like nude and then you couldn't see the underwear and it was part of the dress, but not the underwear, just completely nude. You can't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
What is that word? Opaque?
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it was not. And I also felt really bad saying it because she's so gorgeous, but that dress was just not it.
It makes me sad.
Yeah. Disappointed.
That was her choice. And that it took so long. And then she looks, okay, better not to say anything further. Unless you have any pressing comments.
Mm-mm.
Shall we move on to Shekinah and Sarper?
Oh, God.
Yay. Now, they are in their bed in the condo with 4 days left at the start of this segment. I thought, why not get married now? You're at the wedding venue already, are you not?
Yes.
But the tone of this morning is not perhaps conducive to marriage, because they're still kind of mulling over what happened the night before when they met up with the friends, and the subject of the prenup came up, which was kind of a surprise to Sarper. He still seems to be reeling over the fact that Shekinah wants to have prenup. And she is just talking about the fact that she wants this because who knows, he may cheat in the future. That's such a great outlook for you to have as a bride-to-be when you consider your husband. Oh, well, he may cheat, so this will protect me. What? She's so suspicious, so jealous all the time.
So controlling.
Yes.
Yes. And then the whole thing about the coffee pot and the grounds and how she put it on a ledge.
Yeah.
And how that tipped him off.
I see what you did there.
I did.
Very punny.
Did. And anyway, it was so infuriating, but I appreciated the fact that he called his family. And I'm glad that all of them were there at the same time.
Strangely, sitting in the same couch in a row.
How did that happen? But I loved it because, he was talking about his previous marriage or they were talking about it and how she isolated him and it was so abusive. And, when they ended the call, they were like, don't stop talking to us. It was like, yes, thank you. Someone is standing up for this man. His family was just so supportive and I really appreciated that for him. And I don't think I knew that either he was married before or that it was so abusive.
We did not know that he was married before.
So this was news.
Totally news. Yes.
Yeah, because from my understanding is that he's been a bachelor his entire life, which is how he was able to amass his gigantic number. And like, none of that makes any sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
He's that bad boy that, everyone wants to tame and yet he got married at some point. Nobody talks about it until right now. And now it seems as though he's getting into the same type of relationship, which gets
Totally.
even worse the more we read on.
It does. If I could just stay in this moment for 1 second, I want to reiterate the family is wonderful in their support of Sarper. I love that as well. The fact that they're telling him to stay open, to stay communicative with them is fantastic, especially as they know that he has a tendency to retreat whenever he gets stressed out and to kind of disappear. The other thing I loved is when he tells his family about the prenup, and he brings up the fact that this prenup was never mentioned before. It's only a few days before the wedding, and suddenly, surprise, Shekinah has this prenup that she wants him to sign. They're totally on his side. Great. Like that too. And then, which kind of perplexed me a little bit, he mentions the fact that he wanted to add his own clause about Shekinah's weight. And they all laughed and supported him and said, great idea, go for it. And I thought, that doesn't really sit well with me.
I wonder if it's because none of them like Shekinah and they were like, yeah, whatever. Put whatever you want in there. That's why they laughed about it.
Maybe that's the answer. That makes
Because
sense.
it's not, he's going to send her to the moon if she cheats on him or something. Like, it's so outlandish and just not a thing. So they probably knew that he was just like lashing out about it in anger, like we talked about last week. And they're like, yeah, you're right. Put that clause in there because everything else is just as ridiculous, you know?
Yeah. The next scene that we have with them is that Sarper has gone missing. It's one day before the wedding. Shekinah is packing. She's getting ready to go, as she says, to the wedding venue. And I was like, what the hell? You were already there. You're getting married in bed. Why are you going to a venue? What's this?
Yeah. Where are we going now? Where are we packing for? What kind of BS are you slinging us along on? This is just so incredibly stupid.
She's calling and calling to try to get hold of Sarper. He's not answering. She remembers at this point, I put an AirTag on his keychain because he does not allow me to track him. What's it called? I guess it's tracking. Yes, tracking on the phone. So again, paranoid much? Jealous much? He's already set a boundary. Controlling a lot. He's set a boundary of no, I will not allow you to track me using the location services of my phone. So she circumvents that by behind his back, deceitfully putting an AirTag onto his keychain. Great.
Talk about an invasion of privacy. You know, he didn't want to share his location for a reason. And here she is just doing it behind his back.
Yeah, lovely. So the production crew makes their way to this coffee shop where he's hanging out alone, where he wants to be by himself. He's clearly having some kind of anxiety attack, a crisis, and he's really worried about getting married again. As you mentioned before, he was in a very, very bad marriage before. He's worried about the fact that he's getting married again. He doesn't explicitly say that he's getting worried about marrying somebody who's like his first wife. He's talking about the fact that he had made a bit of a promise to himself when he got divorced the first time that he would never get married again. And now he finds himself about to get married again. So he's questioning whether or not this is the right choice.
And he was worried about not just the marriage, but what if she changes after the marriage? And, you know, with them being together for 2 years and her never mentioning a prenup. And now she brings it up and he's like, oh my God, is she going to change? First of all, yes, she is going to change. You're not marrying the same face that you started dating. She's going to keep changing. But what I found incredibly awful is when she sat down and she was like, what are you doing? And he's like, Shekinah, I am so scared. And she blew him off.
Totally.
Oh my God. I was 100% sure, but now you're making me question everything. And yet this entire season, she's like, I can't marry you if my kid doesn't like you. I can't marry you if my friends don't like you. Okay, meet up with my friends again, because if they don't like you, I can't marry you. And then now he has a very, very valid concern, and she blows him off.
It was brutal. When she walked in there, I was expecting her to be kind and considerate, compassionate. That's what I would have wanted somebody, because it's like
wanted, yes.
Wanted, exactly. It's like if your kid runs away, you're a teenager, you're younger than a teenager, you run away from home, and you're obviously you don't get far and your parents find you. And it's all about enforcing the love. First of all, I'm concerned about you. I want to know what's going on. I want to help you. And then after the fact, once they feel safe and secure, not to beat them over the head with it, but to like, no, it's not safe to do that. You can't do that again. That's not appropriate. Whatever.
Yeah.
There's love, and then there's the lesson. And no love. Forget about that. It's straight to punishment, straight to blame, straight to your fault. What are you doing, and how is it affecting me?
Yeah. No
and my
lesson.
feelings.
No nothing. All about her.
Jesus Christ.
And, she harps on him so much or he has harped on her so much for running away, for evading conversations. And then he does it because he's legit having like a mental health crisis, and she berates him for it. Like, the double standard here is just disgusting.
Yeah,
I think that summarizes it for me.
It is a brutal double standard, but also, can he not see this pattern? Does he not understand that he's going to be married to this person who cannot afford him any compassion or understanding in these moments of crisis?
No.
Okay. His choice.
No. Because, what if he has, or they're going to get married. He's going to have a mental breakdown, and then she's going to be like, you're too much for me. I'm divorcing you.
Yeah. Rating on?
Yes, please.
Jessica and Juan.
Well, I'm so glad that Juan has people coming to visit. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Go ahead.
I am also glad for that. That really warmed the cockles of my heart to see all of his family arriving from Spain, from New York.
It was beautiful.
It was so lovely. So they're in Colorado now. They're jumping all over the place. It really amazes me how much they can travel and rent houses and do special, fun, expensive things. They've rented this ginormous house in Colorado. It's 2 days before the wedding, and it looks like everybody is coming to stay there with them. Nice.
And the kids.
And the kids.
At least there are other children as well, and it's not just Jessica's kids. So her kids have other kids to play with. I think that
was great. The family situation. I loved, as I said, that his family was there as well, that they're represented for him, to support him. And I felt for the very, very first time that Juan was truly happy. Not since we saw him in a previous season when he was back in Colombia visiting his family there with Jessica have I seen him truly be happy. Yeah.
I thought it was wonderful to see that, not just that he had family there, but, he was talking about how he wanted some aspects of his culture in the wedding. And they're Jessica's very, very lack of effort, and Megan.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so glad that he had his family there. I think he would have been so sad, for lack of a better word, to walk down the aisle without having anyone or anything. So I'm so, so, so glad that his family, and especially his cousin from New York, were able to make it. And I thought that was so beautiful for him. And that he arranged everything and Jessica had nothing to do with it.
We learn that Juan is concerned for one thing in this moment, and that has to do with his culture with regards to his son, David. So because he's surrounded by people who speak Spanish, this is heightened for him. It's highlighted. The fact that Jessica and the two boys that she has only speak English, that everything is very monotone, shall we say? Like, there's no Colombian element in anything that they do. There's no Latin culture in anything that they do. And nobody speaks Spanish except for Juan. We find out that he and Jessica had made a promise several times that she would start learning to speak Spanish. And she has come up with many excuses for not doing this. And she knows basically nothing, even though it has been 4 years of this serious relationship with Juan. She has not progressed at all. So Juan decides that he's going to issue his own ultimatum of sorts, that she has to learn Spanish. Otherwise, they cannot proceed.
I mean, what a time to bring this up.
Yeah.
I think she's being ignorant, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you want all of your kids to learn a second language?
Why not?
Especially, like, you're marrying a man who speaks Spanish. The majority of his family speaks Spanish. You want them all to hang out and not understand each other? I mean, I've been part of that family. I didn't learn the language that my grandparents spoke, and I wasn't able to get to know them because I wasn't taught that language. And I missed out on a lot because of that, because of my parents' decision to not teach me said language. So for her kids to be young enough and for David to be what, like under a year, those are excellent ages to learn a new language. I mean, any time is excellent to learn a new language. There's absolutely no detriment to anyone learning a new language. Like, I don't understand why she wouldn't want to do that. And the fact that she hasn't made the effort in 4 years is disgusting. And, you know, I've been learning Spanish over the last 4 days, and I know so much more than she does over 4 years.
Yes.
That's absurd.
I know. I also wonder what it is that she objects to so strongly that she can't even get off her lazy ass and learn at least a few sentences. But when they sit down to talk about this issue and she says, you know, this isn't the best time to bring it up, I'm like, okay, point to Jessica. That is true. I acknowledge that. She has zero empathy, just like Shekinah. No understanding whatsoever, no ability to put herself in her partner's shoes and look at it from his perspective. He is worried about losing his culture, losing his heritage, and not having anything to pass on to his son or even to share with his new American family of what his life is and will be and has been with regards to Colombia, rather than showing tiny little bit of compassion and just listening to him. Even she can't do that. Interrupt, overstep, overspeak, offer excuses upon excuses.
The fact that she couldn't even let him speak drove me bananas, because apparently she's a therapist or a counselor or something, and you know that you're supposed to sit back and let them speak. Like, does she just leave that at the door when she comes home? Apparently. Or does she do that with all of her clients? Like, this is supposed to be like an aspect of your profession. This is a skill that you utilize in your profession that you claim that has interfered with you learning this language.
Yeah.
And now you're allowing it to interfere with your relationship?
It was disgusting to watch her shut him down to the point where not only is he like, he gets smaller and smaller. He starts hunching over. He's trying to make his body smaller. He's definitely feeling
trying to become invisible.
Yeah, he's feeling intimidating.
Intimidated.
Yes, thank you. Intimidated.
We're all learning English.
She's dominating him. She's dominating the whole conversation. He's basically cowering and he backs down.
He looks so weak and powerless in this moment because he knows that he's not going to win. And it's so sad because he's not asking for much. This is something that is going to benefit all of them. Like, think about the amount of times that you and I have traveled and me not knowing the language, but you knowing the language. It would have been so much more helpful had I known something, had I learned something. Well, I mean, I did learn along the way, but I made an effort, and you also encouraged my effort. Whereas she's not making any effort in any capacities.
No.
Are you going to go to Colombia to visit his family ever?
Probably. No. And she's just going to expect them to speak English to her.
Okay, right. So she's going to go down there and she's going to demand his entire family and the entire country to speak her language because she's too lazy to make an effort.
Yes, absolutely. When they ended this conversation and Juan just backed down completely from everything that he just said, and he turned to her and he was like mumbling, well, I just wanted you to know this and that's it. My heart went out to him because I was like, oh dear God, like, this is what you're going to have to deal with. Whenever there's something that you bring up that she doesn't want to do, she's going to push and push until the point where you're just like, okay, you win. I just wanted you to know this. I'm not even asking you to change anything anymore. I just wanted you to know. But obviously he's not going to get anywhere with her.
That reminds me of all of the times that he's tried to do something and she's shut him down. You know, like when the kid was sick and he didn't think to drain the macaroni and cheese, and then she just goes and orders the pizza. Yeah. Think about what that's going to be like with discipline. She's at work all day, so he disciplines the kids, which they should be very new for them. She comes home and undoes everything. So she's going to undermine his parenting with absolutely everything.
Yeah, probably.
How are the kids going to learn anything? And poor Juan is just going to sit there and be like, well, what's the point? She's going to undo everything that I've done already. So, why am I saying anything? Why am I doing anything? It's really going to weigh down on his self-esteem, on his character, on his ambition. And he even said to his cousin in the car, like, I forget what he said, but it was something to the effect of like, I'm a stay-at-home dad.
Not that there's anything wrong with being a stay-at-home dad, but the way that he said it, yeah, he just sounded defeated and like he'd given up. He'd given up on everything. There's no cruise life for him. There's no fun anymore. It's just, this is what he is. Yeah, I at the end of his segment, I wanted to shout at him, Juan, there's still time. You can run. But I very much suspect that he's going to marry Jessica.
I've been saying from the very beginning, Juan, run. Though, they made the decision to have this baby together. I've been saying that she baby trapped him, but I rewatched the episode and it was a conscious decision between both of them. So I don't feel as bad about it, but I still feel awful because I don't think that he could have predicted the life that he would be walking into. Sorry, Juan.
Lo siento mucho, Juan.
Mucho.
Okay, let's read on. Mark and Mina, tiny little short segment. They also only have 2 days left. And at the forefront of Mina's mind at this moment is Clayton, her son. This is the last day that they can find out if he's going to be able to leave in order to be there in time for the wedding. So Mark and Mina, are going to check out the wedding venue, which is gorgeous, as expected.
I love the fact that she says that she had nothing to do with this. She doesn't know anything about the venue. I found it pretty generic, but still beautiful.
By the lake with the trees and the buildings, and it just seemed so idyllic. I thought it was lovely.
I wonder if there was a place to land the float planes, the water planes. I feel like that would be very in line,
yes,
with their storyline.
Perhaps.
But irritated me at the very beginning because, her and her sister made this big breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
And Mark sits there and he picks at it with his hands. And then he's like, oh, we're going to be late. We got to go. You're just leaving all that food? Yes, I'm hungry.
All right. Well, let's keep going. So
I thought he did everything. I can't believe that he did everything. And she let him. Like, did he not video call her from the venue to show her? Did she have any say in the colors and the decoration? I feel like this is just a little stupid thing that she was actually involved in it. Now this is the first time that she gets to see it, obviously, in person. But why wouldn't you go see it before? She's been there long enough.
I definitely think she's the kind of person who would have taken part in making the decisions with Mark. I think that they're just kind of painting it that way for us. Yeah, it doesn't seem logical that she wouldn't have at least had a little bit of input into her own wedding. Anyway, Mark is paying the bill for all of this lovely wedding stuff. Mina gets the phone call that she's been waiting for.
The phone actually rings and she picks it up, as opposed to when Greg got that phone call about
fake call.
Your phone's been ringing off the hook. Hello? Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
It's a real ring. She does pick it up. It's a real phone call, and the news is bad. Clayton can't come. Now, no reason is given, which I found infuriating. Why are they not telling us why? What is the reason that Clayton can't come? Could you at least just give us a little hint? Nothing?
The visa didn't go through. His passport hasn't arrived.
Something.
Nothing. No, Clayton can't come.
There's too much fog at the airport. I don't care. Give me a reason.
Yeah, no. And then she says the most heartbreaking thing that Clayton doesn't know when he's already packed and he's ready to go.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was awful.
And he's what, 12?
Around there, I think.
He's old enough to understand what's going on. And I would hate to be part of that conversation for either Mina or her sister to have to deal, well, not her sister, her friend Nancy.
Yeah.
To have to break that to him. That's so sad.
It's so tragic. And Mina, obviously, she made the promise earlier in the season that if Clayton wasn't going to be able to be there for the wedding, that she wasn't going to marry Mark. So we're at this point where she has to make the decision. Is she going to do that? Or is she going to go ahead with the wedding without Clayton there? And the scene ends with her walking off saying it's just not possible. She can't get married. I don't think that's true. but I can feel the sentiment in the moment. Definitely she feels that it's impossible to continue without her son.
And this, I think I've said it before, that either she's a fantastic actress or these are genuine emotions, because I felt it. I got quite teary-eyed when I saw that. There were 2 times in this episode I got teary-eyed, and I felt so awful for her and for Clayton, and also for the wedding coordinator, because when she comes back in the room, she immediately stands up. She almost kicked her chair right back so she could grab some tissues, and then Mina walks off.
Yeah.
It was so sad.
Well, let's talk about something happier. Let's read on with Gregory and Joan. 1 day to go. And this is like the surprise parade, right?
I loved
surprise
it.
after surprise after surprise for Joan, organized
First of all,
by Greg.
The house that he rented was so beautiful. It was so clean. It was so crisp, and not something that I ever would have expected that he would pick out. But I think he knows enough about his future wife to know what she would want. So check one.
Definitely. I love that they are finally going to have a taste of independent life without Lucille in the house or around the house, about to come in the house.
I loved when they were joking in the car, like, oh, Lucille can't just come up and be like, hey, what are you doing there? What are you coming down? You know, I thought that was so cute.
Then the second surprise is Greg has purchased traditional Nigerian. Now, he wasn't able to get his hands on Ugandan clothing, but Nigerian clothing for this wedding rehearsal dinner party that they're having that night.
I'd like to stop you right there. First of all, close enough. Second of all, the effort is remarkable in comparison to Jessica and her fake non-Colombian flowers.
Oh, I know.
And this is a man who can't keep a job. I mean, he currently has one, apparently. This is, he hasn't been the most responsible and adult-y human being, and yet he's still able to think ahead and think about what's going to make her happy, and to make these 2 gestures of the house and the outfits, I think, was so beautiful. And then he went over and above.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to tell us what he went over and above with?
You normally have a narrative, but go ahead.
So the final piece of his brilliant display of consideration towards his bride-to-be's culture is that he has hired African. Well, actually, there's 2 parts, aren't there? There's the African music and dancers, but there's also the African food. And I'm surprised you didn't mention that, because food is your jam.
I meant to say something about that, but I'm still I think I'm as confused as Lucille was. What is this? Is this chicken? Is there bones in it? Is this spit? What is this? And I was like, there just wasn't enough time to consume it with my eyes to be able to figure out what everything was. And I felt like everything was half covered. But I was also just, you know how much we love Greg and Joan. Well, more so Joan than Greg. But we saw in the preview about this big grand gesture. So I think I was more focused on that than the food, which is really strange. And I'm kind of glad that you brought that up and called me out.
I thought the food looked amazing.
Oh, God.
I wish I could have tried some of it. I thought that Lucille's commentary about the food was embarrassing.
I thought it sounded like my mom. What is this? What's going on here? Is it spicy? Is it going to burn? Mom, just try.
Yeah, Greg saying, just eat the food. Stop asking questions was perfectly on point. Just shut up, Lucille. Enjoy this beautiful meal that he's thought of, that he's not prepared, but organized and thought to have all of these people attend and enjoy with him and with Joan.
And something else I noted was the amount of food, just the sheer quantity of food for the amount of people that were there. I want to say that that's very typical for the Ugandan culture, just like we saw with, what was his name? Emily and Kobe, all about the food. Got to be a shit ton of food. He nailed it. And then he continues to nail it when they go outside and he brings in the African dancers and musicians, and just, you could see the happiness on both of their faces. He really, he gets an A++ for this. I cannot fault him in any capacity. I know we've shit on him in the past, but he knocked it right out of the park. I am so proud of him. But the look on her face when
The music,
when
the
everything
drumming.
started coming through, that was my second teary moment. That's so thoughtful,
Yeah.
so considerate, just so loving, and Jessica's paper flowers.
Stark contrast. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
How much effort Greg put into it, how much thought he put into it, and how little effort, how lazy Jessica is when it comes to this aspect of her relationship. Greg did fantastic. It was unbelievably good. When the music started, I also got a little choked up because you could see Joan's face light up. You could see how much it meant to her, especially when we know that her family can't be there for any of this. And so Greg is especially conscious of that and trying to make up for it by having all of these elements of her culture be there to make her feel at home, to make her feel loved, welcomed. Just absolutely brilliant. Well done, Greg.
Beautiful. And just so well thought out for a man who hasn't really had to do much for himself in his life.
Yeah.
You know, he really put in a ton of effort for this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really proud of him.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, now we move on to him, screwing up about putting the arrival time of 6:30 on the invitations as opposed to the ceremony starts at 6:30. I give him a pass. You know, you've already done all of this. And did no one look over this for you?
Apparently not.
Anyone proofread it? You had no one? So
No.
if he didn't have anyone else looking over it, the amount of effort that he's already put in for this, and the fact that he also did the invitations and all the planning for, you know, the night before and the actual wedding itself, he gets a pass, man. This isn't a complete failure. I mean, I'm sure in the moment it felt like it, but I think he's just done so well, and he probably spread himself too thin and just overlooked a detail.
Yeah, I don't know how he was supposed to know this without ever having done it before in his life.
Yeah.
So
And he probably saw ceremony starts at 6:30, arrival time is 6:30. Be there at 6:30.
yeah, it's very likely and possible. Again, I don't feel any ill will towards him for having made this mistake. Anybody could make it. And the fact that they can actually call a good number of the people who are coming to the wedding and say, actually, things are starting right at 6:30. So if you could be there a little earlier, there isn't really an issue here. I think it's going to be okay. He talks about the fact that they'd have to then move up the dinner and the timing of everything else that happens after the ceremony. But I really don't see that as having to happen now that they're making their phone calls.
And so not only are they making their phone calls, there's typically an amount of time that is factored in, especially when it comes to dinner time. It's never this time on the dot. And, you know, in comparison with Alliya and Shawn, not 2 hours worth of a buffer, you know? If you want to say 15, 20 minutes, even half an hour, that's reasonable. And if you can, I mean, they have called everyone that they possibly can, that's fine. But he was also saying that, you know, with all of these changes, he's worried that they're going to charge him extra. And I laughed and I was like, you mean charge your parents extra?
Correct.
Because you didn't pay for it. But I felt like his disappointment in himself was palpable. It didn't seem like he was having those fake crocodile tears and, oh my God, poor me. He was all just like, I messed up. Joan's going to be so pissed. I wanted this to be so perfect for her. And I really, really dropped the ball. Dude, if you're going to drop the ball on anything, I think that's completely forgivable, you know? He's done so much else that's going to make up for it. And I don't think that this is going to be the thing that makes Joan walk away. You know, I think she might just be like, ooh, that kind of sucks. But
she would take it in stride. She'd be fine.
Yeah, she'd be fine. She'd be fine. She's like, well, the party's still happening. We're still doing this. I didn't get dressed up like this for nothing. Let's go. I need to twerk in this dress. I can't believe I just said that out loud.
That's what she said she's going to do.
I know. I just feels weird. But anyway, so A++ for Greg, despite his very minor detail.
Okay. We did not see Stevie and Maddie this week. But next week, Stevie is going to give an answer, or has given an answer to Maddie for the burning question on everybody's mind.
You know, I feel at this point, it doesn't matter what answer she gives. No one's going to believe anything that comes out of her mouth.
No. But Saeed's going to come to the rescue, apparently. And yeah, that doesn't work for me. Greg is living the consequences of his mistake. So I think he's just going to be beating himself up, but nothing bad is actually going to happen from a result of his mistake. We're going to see Shekinah admitting to Sarper how she found him at the coffee shop, having to come clean about her AirTag.
Sarper, go home.
Please. Mina faces up to the reality of Clayton not being able to come to her wedding. And I think she's going to have a phone call. Well, not a video call with him where she has to tell him he's not able to come, which is...
Yeah, that's going to be heartbreaking.
That's going to hurt. And Ani has to choose who she thinks she's going to marry. Right.
Okay, I'm pretty sure we all know where this is going to go.
Any bets? Matt or Amani?
Ray.
The wild card.
God, this is such a non-issue.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, after all of this, now you're going to tell her that she has to choose. Would that not have been a conversation the entire time?
Totally. This is all made up.
It's so stupid. I'm so sick of the storyline. I'm very hopeful that it will actually be done soon.
And finally, next week, we're going to see Shawn completely losing his cool and having a full-on temper tantrum in front of Alliya over this very long delay.
Can't blame him. He's probably very hot and dehydrated and possibly tipsy and hungry. I mean, those are a bad combination.
Totally. Any final comments?
I actually somewhat enjoyed this episode. I was quite surprised by that. Very disappointed in many of them, but I'm very proud of Greg.
Greg was the star.
What about you? Last thought?
That is it. Greg was the star, and that whole segment with the wedding rehearsal dinner was fabulous. Loved it.
Bravo.
Excellent. Yeah. Before we go, if you're enjoying the 90 Day Fiancé Honestly podcast, please subscribe to or give a show a follow. And if you have an additional moment, please rate us and help other 90 Day fans to find our show. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.